Hi, this is Mike. Welcome back to Advanced Photoshop. Today we're going to look at video editing techniques in Photoshop. Now, the editing that you can do is not a substitute for advanced video editing applications such as Adobe Premiere, but sometimes you don't need still another application to purchase and to learn to do short videos that might be presented, for example, on the internet. Maybe it's just an advertisement or something to enhance a website. And Photoshop allows you to do that without having to go to the expense and the trouble of learning a new application. And beginning with CS6, you are now able to access the video editing without having to purchase the extended version of Photoshop. Also beginning with CS6, you can now import and edit sound. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's choose File and New, and we're going to choose the preset that says Film and Video. And for the size, you see that you have a wide variety of file sizes. But we're going to choose the PAL D1 DV widescreen square pixel. And you can give this a name if you like. I'll just call it Practice 1. And I'll click on OK. In my background layer, I'm going to fill that with black. Next, I'm going to import my video. I'm going to choose File and Place. And in the practice files that I've downloaded from Blackboard, I'm going to find the one that says DJ Video 1 and choose Place. And I'll just press Return or Enter, and then it appears as a video file in my Layers panel. Next, let's open up our video timeline. Choose Window and scroll down to the bottom and find Timeline. It doesn't show up here on this video, but you'll find it near the bottom. I'll scroll up so you can see it. There's my timeline panel. Click on the button that says Create Video Timeline. And here you will see that you have a layer just like you do in your Layers panel. You can spin it open and you see that you have options to change the transformation, the opacity, and the layer style, which we'll explore in just a little bit. You also see that you have an option to import an audio track. We'll come back to that in just a minute. I'm just going to go ahead and pull this down a little bit because I want to start out by putting a layer effect on my video. I can apply layer styles to my video layers just like I can any other layer. So in my Layers panel, I'll just do that right now. I'll open up my Layers Style panel, and I'm going to put a white stroke around my video clip. So I'm going to go to the stroke option, set the stroke to 1 point wide, the color to white, and click OK and OK. And now you see that you've got a 1 point wide stroke around your video. If you want to see your video play, just press your space bar and your video will play. In your timeline, you see that you've got your VCR buttons, which allow you to rewind or to move forward or to go to the end of the timeline or to play it and to stop it. But just pressing the space bar will start it and stop it. I'll go ahead and rewind that. I'm going to advance it just until we get to a more detailed part of the image. Also, I want to show you one other thing I forgot to mention. You get this little blue tab, or this little blue slider here at the top of your timeline. This is your playhead, and you can drag that back and forth. This is referred to as scrubbing the playhead, and you can move to different parts of the image. What I want to do is go to a particular part of the image which shows me some detail, such as near the end of the video clip when we see the DJ's face. You can see throughout the movie that the contrast is a little bit low, colors are kind of flat, and we're going to modify those just like we would do with any other layer in Photoshop. Our contrast is kind of flat, so I'm going to create an adjustment layer for levels. I could also use curves. I'm going to open up those midtones a little bit. Maybe increase the highlights somewhat, just to give me a little more contrast than what I had before. Brighten the image up a bit. You notice that I'm not clipping this to the digital video layer. The reason being is I'm going to have additional layers down the road, and I want it to affect all the layers beneath it, not just this one right here. So we're not going to clip it to the DJ Video 1 layer. Next, let's go back to our Digital Video 1 layer, and we're going to apply a filter to it. I'll choose Filter, Artistic, and Poster Edges. The panel, we can experiment a little bit with the options for edge thickness, the edge intensity, and the posterization levels. Now I'm getting a lot of artifacts, which I don't want, but I'm going to set my edge thickness to 5, my edge intensity to 0 to pull those artifacts down, and then the posterization, I think a posterization of about 3 will work fine. We're just trying to enhance the image a little bit, just give it a little bit of more oomph. I click OK. And you can apply just about any filter and any layer effect to a video layer, just like you would with any regular layer. Now let's add our audio track. Let me pull the panel up so you can see it a little bit better. Down at the bottom we've got a little zoom feature here. Just so you can see, I'm going to zoom this out a little bit, just so you can see the entire timeline, hopefully. And over at the edge of our timeline, you'll see a little plus sign right over here. I'm going to click that plus sign right next to the audio track to add my audio to it. I'll go to my practice files folder and I'll choose the MP3 file called DJ track. Now there's a wide variety of sound formats that you can import into Photoshop, but I recommend that you use MP3 files because they're much smaller than, say, a WAV track. WAV files are really high quality, but they are really, really big files, and we want to keep our files as small as possible. So I always choose an MP3. Now choose Open. And then you see how it adds that audio track right here. And when you play your movie, you'll hear that audio track playing. I've got one problem with my audio file, and that is that it lasts a little bit longer than I want it to. I want this to be a 12-second video, and this track lasts a little more than 6 seconds. If you take a look at this timeline, by clicking and dragging on the end of the audio track, you see this little box appears here, and it says that it is 6 seconds and 11 frames long. Those second 2 digits there are the number of frames. And we are running at 30 frames per second, which you can see at the bottom of your timeline panel. So this is about 6 1/3 second long. I want to trim off that last third of a second, so I'm going to drag this to the left until that timeline reads 6 seconds and 0 frames. I'm going to want my music to play twice. I said it's going to be a 12-second video. This one only is lasting 6 seconds. So at the end of my timeline, I will click that little plus sign again, and I will add the DJ track a second time. Once again, I'll click and drag the end of the timeline to the left until we reach a total of 12 seconds total time. So I've got my sound track in place, and next thing I want to do is bring in another video clip and splice it in with my movie. But I want it to be placed in between, well, actually in the middle of Digital Video 1. So what I'm going to do is cut Digital Video 1 in half and then bring in another clip and place it in between the two halves. So I'm going to place my playhead at 3 seconds 15 frames. And I'm going to click on this little scissors icon right here, and this means it's going to split it wherever the playhead is placed. So I click right there, and it splits it in half. Let me move my layers up here. You see that it split it, and it placed the second half of the video clip on a new layer. I want it to be on the same layer. I don't really need to have it on 2 separate layers. It's not going to hurt anything, but just to keep things a little more compact, I'm just going to select that, just click on it, and you'll see a white frame appear on it, and then just click and drag it back down to Digital Video 1 layer. Now let's go ahead and import our second clip. Down at the end of our timeline, you'll see that there is a little plus sign right over here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to add the Digital Video 2 movie clip, and it places it right there on the timeline. I'm going to click and drag that right in between the two halves of Digital Video 1, and so now it's placed it right in between those. Now it's not centered, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to lower this just a little bit so we can see a little bit more here. Making certain that this center clip is selected, I'm going to press Command A and then align it to the center and then deselect. I also want to have the same filters applied to the Video 2 clip that I've got in Video 1. To do that, I've got to convert this to a smart object. So in my Layers panel, I will just right-click on DJ Video 2 and choose Convert to Smart Object. Let me move it over here so you can see a little bit better. Now that it's a smart object, I choose Filter and Poster Edges. That's the last filter I use, so I can just click on this top entry here and just click on OK. Now we've got the same filters settings applied to this as we did in the original one. Back in my layers, you remember that we had a stroke applied to DJ Video 1. I want to apply that same layer effect to DJ Video 2. So I can just go to my effects on DJ Video 1, hold down the Alt or Option key and click and drag that up to Video 2, and it copies that layer effect. And now you see you have the stroke applied to the second clip as well. Okay, so I'm placing my playhead right at frame at the 3-second 15 frame position, and what I can do is I can click and drag this playhead over this way like that until I get right there. It's kind of touchy, or I can come down here to the time signature, double click that, and just enter 3 seconds colon 15. That's going to be at the 3.5 second mark, and click OK. And I want to animate this DJ video too, to where it zooms in, plays for a while, and then zooms back out. And here's how I'll do that. I'll do that with Keyframe Animation. There's a little triangle just to the right of the thumbnail for that video clip. I'm going to spin that open, and I'll scroll down a little bit more so you can see just a wee bit better. And you see that there are now 3 sublayers underneath the video group 1 layer. One for transform, one for opacity, one for style. And you've got little stopwatch icons next to each one. And I can create keyframes which are going to store the position, the scale, and the rotation, or in other words, the transformation properties, or I can and then I can animate those properties, or I can animate the opacity or any layer styles that I might have applied. As I mentioned, I want this to zoom in, so I'm going to be animating the transformation properties. So I'm going to click on this little stopwatch icon right next to the word transform. And it adds a keyframe there. And I'm going to scale down my movie at this point. I'll press Control T to go to the free transform panel, or Command T on the Macintosh. And we're going to Shift and Alt or Option, click and drag, scale this movie clip down till it's really tiny, about 5% or so. It doesn't really matter as long as it's really tiny like that. And press Return or Enter. Then I'm going to go to the 4-second position on my timeline. Let's change that to 4:00, and my playhead jumps there automatically. And here I'll go back to my free transform tool, and I'm going to scale it back up to 100%. And press Return or Enter. And when I do so, it adds another keyframe for me automatically. So now when I scrub my playhead, you'll see that it zooms in. Now to make it zoom back out, I'm going to go to the end of the clip and just do the opposite what I did before. I'll go to my free transform tool, scale it back down to 5%, or as long as it's really nice and tiny, that's good. And then I'll go put my playhead back to the frame at 5 seconds and 14 frames, and scale it back up to 100%. When you scrub your playhead, you'll see that it zooms in, plays for a while, zooms back out, all very quickly. I'll press the rewind button, and I will test my movie out. Let me drop this down just a little bit so we can see how it looks. We zoom in, we play for a while, we zoom back out. I've noticed that in this second movie clip that my colors and contrast are a little bit on the flat side, so I'm going to open up my my adjustment layer for levels once again and kind of correct that, make certain that I've got some good contrast here. Now when we play our video, notice that the video just starts very abruptly, and then when it's finished, it ends just as abruptly. And what we would like to do is kind of have it fade in and fade out. I'm going to do that by applying a transition. So I'm going to collapse this layer just so I have a little more room to work with here. And over in my timeline, just to the right of my play buttons, there's a little box that has a diagonal line on it. These are my transitions. So I'm going to click this transition box right here. And I'm going to find the one that says Fade with Black. And I'm going to drag it on top of the beginning of my video layer. And I want this to be 1.5 seconds long. So I just move my cursor over to the end of that transition box, and I'm just going to drag it out until the duration shows 1 second 15 frames. Then at the end of my clip, we do the same thing. Go to your transitions, and you can preset how large you want to be if you like. Choose 1.5 seconds there. Click and drag the Fade with Black down to the end, and then it will fade out. So now when I scrub my playhead or test my movie, either one, you'll see that's going to fade in over 1.5 seconds, and then it fades out over 1.5 seconds. Now you notice that when we take a look at our timeline, pull this up here so I can see a little bit better, that our movie is 12 seconds long. That's the duration of the two instances of our soundtrack. Just a little bit under 10 seconds into the movie, we have this blank space here. And this is where we're going to add some text and a picture, and we're going to animate that. So I'm going to move my playhead over to 8 seconds, 4 frames. And I did that just by double-clicking on the time signature down here on the left-hand corner. And that moves my head right to the beginning of my fade-out transition. And I want to have some text that fades in as my video is fading out. On our Layers panel, let's make our topmost layer, the Levels layer, active. And then I'll go to my Type tool, and I'm going to set my font to Garamond, the style to regular, the size to 72, and the color to white. And I'll click over here off to the side here, and I'll just type in Adobe Photoshop. We're going to make this a little promo for Adobe Photoshop. So just type in Adobe Photoshop. Click on my selection tool, select all, and then I will center the text. And deselect. I will spin open the sublayer for my text layer. So you can see the animation options for the text. We've got the transform, opacity, style, and since it's a text object, you can actually warp the text and animate that. All I want to do is animate the opacity. So I'm going to click on the little stopwatch next to opacity. I'm going to go to my Layers panel, and I'm going to drop the opacity down to 0. Make it completely completely disappear. Then I'll move the playhead to the end of the video clip at frame 9:18, 9 seconds, 18 frames. And here I will increase my layer opacity back to 100%. When you scrub the playhead, you'll see the text disappears and then comes into 100% opacity, just as the movie clip itself is fading to 0%. It's fading away. So as the movie clip fades out, the text fades in. You'll notice that when I increase the layer opacity back to 100%, that it automatically created a keyframe for me there, storing the new opacity information in that keyframe. I'm now going to import a still image and animate that. Let's move our playhead to the 10-second mark on our timeline. And let's choose File, Place, and we're going to choose the Photoshop poster JPEG image from our practice files folder, and it places it right there for us. Right now our movie is 14 seconds plus. We need it to be just 12 seconds long. So I'm going to move my cursor over to the end of the layer, and I'm just going to click and drag that over to the 12-second mark. And I'll do that with each of my layers just to make certain. Yeah, there we go. Just had to do it with our poster layer and our Photoshop layer. That way our movie now only lasts 12 seconds exactly. So I've placed my photograph there, and as I mentioned, I want to animate this. And this is a really cool feature. It's referred to as the Ken Burns effect, named after the famous film director. There's a little triangle just to the upper right of my still image layer, my Photoshop poster layer. I'm going to click that, and then this little menu pops up that says no motion. I'm going to click the drop down menu, and I'm going to choose rotate and zoom. And these are other different options. You can pan and zoom, pan, zoom, rotate, rotate and zoom, or no motion at all. And these are just ways to take a still image, which might otherwise be kind of boring, and add some gentle motion to it just to create a little more interest. So I'm going to choose rotate and zoom. I'm going to turn off the resize to fill canvas option. And where it says rotate, I'm going to set that to rotate counterclockwise. And I'll leave the zoom set to zoom in. I don't know if we can see that just real well. Let me move this down. It just occurred to me that you couldn't see that. Here's our options. We chose rotate and zoom, turned off the resize to fill canvas option, set the rotate to counterclockwise, and I leave the zoom set to zoom in. And then when you scrub the playhead, you'll see that it zooms in and rotates counterclockwise. Now, just to finish up our animation, we're going to add a little bit of a fade in and fade out effect, because right now the still image just pops in and then the movie comes to an abrupt end. So we can make a nice transition there by adding a transition. Let's go to our transitions menu, and I'm going to add a fade transition to the beginning of it. Just click and drag it over to the clip so that it fades in. And then I'm going to add a fade with black transition to the end of our clip, like this. So when I scrub my playhead, the image fades in and then fades out, fading to black. So we have a nice transition as our movie comes to an end. Our movie clip fades out, our text fades in. We get to read the text for a little bit. Then the still image fades in, rotates counterclockwise while it's zooming, and then it fades to black. And that completes our movie. There's only one thing that is left for us to do, and that is to render the movie into a format that's usable for our audience. That is called rendering the movie. Down at the bottom of your timeline panel, you'll see a little arrow right here, and I'm going to click that, and these are my render settings. We're going to render this as an MP4 movie, and you can choose the folder to where you want to save it, and under the rendering options, I would set the preset for quality to medium quality rather than high. And you've got a lot of options here you can choose from, depending on where and how it's going to be used, whether it's going to be on YouTube, Vimeo, high definition, or any of the other video options, Android phone, Android tablet, so on and so forth. But for our purposes, we'll set it for medium quality. And the format is H.264. That is going to be best for us unless you're setting it as a QuickTime movie. We're going to choose the MP4 with this codec so that we get a high quality video but still keep it pretty small. So again, the only thing I'm changing here is the preset for quality. I'm setting that to medium. I'm going to accept all of the other defaults and choose render. Now again, you might want to choose where you want to save this to. And click on render. And then your progress bar appears. And in fairly short order, you'll have an MP4 file ready to be submitted. Now for your assignment, you're going to create your own original movie from the movie clips and the sound clip that you find in the assignments folder that you've downloaded from Blackboard. If you want, you can use your own video clips. The ones that I've got here I downloaded from YouTube, but not necessarily. If you want to make things go fairly smooth and easily, just stick with the video clips and the sound files that I've got there. If you use any additional sound files, make certain that you use MP3 files, not WAV files. We want to keep your file size as small as possible. And you're going to use your design skills and your Photoshop skills to make a captivating movie. Keep the length under 1 minute. You can add text, still images, video layers, adjustment layers, masks, layer styles, filters. You can change blending modes. You can add geometric shapes and lines and animate all of these. And you can keyframe changes to position, opacity, and layer style. In other words, this is a very open-ended assignment. This is your opportunity to showcase what you can do. You need to have 2 or more movie clips, plus 1 sound clip, and 1 animated still image. And you need to add transitions, at least a transition at the beginning and 1 at the end of the movie. And submit the finished PSD file and the rendered MP4 movie to me through Blackboard. You do not need to submit the practice movie. So send those 2 files to me on Blackboard. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you can do with this. Again, this is your opportunity to showcase your creativity, and this will be a great piece that you can put in your professional portfolio, which will enhance your job skills. Thanks for looking. I look forward to seeing what you can do. This is Mike McCrease.